The night was supposed to be peaceful. Emma Hartley, the quiet and soft-spoken wife of billionaire Lucas Arden, had spent her evening preparing a simple dinner in their penthouse kitchen. Her way of trying to reconnect with a husband who had grown distant, cold, and unpredictable over the past year. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, it's free, and it helps us bring you more dramatic stories. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Now, let us dive in. Lucas Arden wasn't always like this. Before the money, before the fame, before the headlines that crowned him the city's golden giant, he was kind, gentle, a man whose smile felt like sunlight. Tall, impossibly handsome, with sharp blue eyes and a presence that filled every room, Lucas never needed to boast. People simply gravitated toward him. But wealth had a way of sharpening a man, and love, if ignored long enough, had a way of withering. Emma placed the dishes on the table and checked the clock again. 9:17 p.m. He was late. Again. She sighed and sat down, her fingers tapping anxiously against the glass table. Then she heard the sound she had been dreading, the elevator doors opening directly into the penthouse. She stood up quickly, forcing a smile she hoped would reach her eyes. "Lucas? I made dinner. Your favorite—" Her words died. Lucas walked in first, broad-shouldered, tall as a pillar, his expensive suit still crisp even at night. But he wasn't alone. On his arm was Nia Morel, the woman who had recently become the whisper of the city, a striking black beauty with an elegant hourglass figure, flawless confidence, and the kind of magnetic grace that made people stare without realizing it. Everything about her felt bold, powerful, alive, the opposite of Emma. Emma froze. Nia let out a soft, amused laugh as she looked around the penthouse like it already belonged to her. "Oh, she's home?" Nia said lightly, raising a brow. Lucas didn't look surprised, or guilty, or even uncomfortable. He looked entertained. "Emma," he said, his voice low but dismissive, "we'll need the living room." Emma swallowed hard. The living room? Lucas, what's going on? You brought someone home." Nia stepped forward as if she owned the space. "You must be the wife," she said with a small, effortless smile. Not kind, not cruel, just confident. "Lucas told me you'd still be here." "Still be here," Emma whispered, the words cutting deeper than she expected. Lucas smirked. Something cold, something unfamiliar. Nia nudged him playfully. "You didn't tell me she was this quiet." Lucas chuckled, a sound Emma hadn't heard directed at her in months. "She's harmless," he said. Emma felt her heart twist. Harmless. She stepped back, trying to keep her voice steady. "Lucas, can we talk privately?" Nia leaned closer to him, whispering something that made him laugh again. Emma's face burned. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't loud. She never fought him, not because she was weak, but because she believed love required patience. But tonight something felt off. Wrong. Public. Cruel. "I made dinner," she said softly, voice trembling despite her efforts. "For us." Lucas shrugged. "Nia's already eaten." Nia smiled, eyes flicking to Emma, with a look that wasn't hateful, just superior. Emma's throat tightened. "Lucas, why are you doing this?" she whispered. He raised a brow as if the question annoyed him. "Emma, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I just—" And that was when Lucas stepped forward, towering over her, blocking the warm kitchen lights with his massive frame, looking at her not like a wife, but like an inconvenience. Nia watched with an amused smile, arms crossed gracefully. Emma tried to step aside, but Lucas moved faster. In one cold, careless motion, he shoved her by the shoulder. She stumbled backward, slipping on the edge of a cleaning cloth she had dropped earlier, and fell straight into the open trash bin she had forgotten to close after cooking. Nia gasped, then covered her mouth, then laughed, a soft, elegant laugh that echoed painfully through the room. Lucas didn't apologize. He didn't reach for her. He didn't even look surprised. Instead, he smirked slightly at Nia's reaction. Emma stayed frozen, half in the trash can, half on the floor, her heart breaking, her dignity slipping through her fingers. The man she had loved had just humiliated her to impress another woman. For a long moment, Emma couldn't move. The cold plastic of the trash bin pressed against her side, the smell of discarded food clinging to her clothes, and the sting of humiliation settling like a weight on her chest. Nia's laugh was soft, elegant, but it pierced Emma like a blade. Lucas didn't help her up. He didn't even glance her way. He simply walked toward the living room, loosening his tie like he had finished a long day at work and was ready to relax. "Come on, Nia," he said casually. "Let's go sit." Nia gave Emma one last amused glance before following him, her heels clicking confidently against the marble floor. Emma slowly lifted herself out of the bin, her hands shaking, her face burning with embarrassment. She stood there, staring at the empty kitchen table, the meal she had prepared now meaningless. Her voice came out small, broken. "Lucas, why?" From the living room, he didn't answer. Nia laughed again softly, and he responded with a low chuckle. They were enjoying themselves. In their world, Emma didn't matter. She wiped her hands, trying to steady her breath. She wasn't angry. She was hurt, deeply, profoundly. She walked to the edge of the living room, her voice trembling. "Lucas, we need to talk. Please." He leaned back on the couch, one arm comfortably draped over the backrest, just inches from Nia's shoulder. "Emma," he said flatly, without looking at her, "go to bed." The words sliced through her. "I'm your wife," she whispered. Nia tilted her head, studying Emma with a calm, confident expression. It wasn't hatred. It was something worse. Indifference. Lucas sighed, finally meeting Emma's eyes. "You're embarrassing yourself," he said coldly. Emma's breath caught. "Embarrassing myself?" she repeated numbly. "Look at you," he said. "Crying, shaking, standing there like you're helpless. Nia doesn't act like that." Nia raised one brow, but she didn't speak. She didn't need to. Emma felt the floor shift beneath her. "Are you comparing me to her?" she whispered. Lucas shrugged. "I'm just being honest." Emma felt something inside her crack, quietly, painfully. She took a step forward. "Lucas, you brought another woman to our home. You pushed me. You laughed at me." Nia cut in smoothly, her voice calm as silk. He didn't laugh. "I did. You fell. It happens." Emma stared at her, stunned by the casual cruelty. Lucas said nothing. He didn't defend Emma. He didn't correct Nia. He seemed almost entertained by the tension. Emma's voice quivered again. "You used to care. You used to at least respect me." Lucas exhaled, his patience wearing thin. "Emma, enough. I'm tired." "Tired?" she echoed, her chest tightening. "You're tired of me?" Lucas didn't answer. Nia glanced between them. Then, with a soft smile, she placed her hand lightly on Lucas's arm. The gesture said everything. She was confident in her place. Emma was the outsider in her own home. Emma's throat closed painfully. "Lucas, please talk to me. Don't treat me like this." He finally stood up. He was tall, towering over both women, his shadow swallowing the room. "Emma," he said firmly, "stop making a scene. You're embarrassing me in front of Nia." Her heart dropped. Embarrassing him. She had been thrown into a trash can, humiliated, dismissed, and she was the embarrassment? Emma stepped back, her eyes filling. Lucas turned to Nia with a faint smirk. "You want a drink?" "Sure," Nia replied smoothly. They walked toward the bar counter, leaving Emma standing alone, like a ghost watching her own life crumble. She pressed a hand to her chest, trying to breathe through the ache. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was contempt. Cold, quiet, calculated. Her husband had brought another woman home, humiliated her, and expected silence. And for the first time in her marriage, Emma realized Lucas wasn't just drifting away. He was gone. The night stretched on, heavy and unbearable. The city lights glittered outside the penthouse windows, but inside Emma felt trapped in darkness. She watched as Lucas poured Nia a drink. Whiskey, the expensive kind he used to save for special occasions with Emma. Now he poured it for someone else. Nia held the glass delicately, her posture elegant, her confidence unshaken. She didn't look at Emma with mockery anymore. Now she simply looked bored, as though the humiliation had already served its purpose. Lucas leaned against the counter, speaking in a low voice Emma could barely hear. He looked relaxed, comfortable, almost happy. It hurt more than the fall, more than the laughter. Emma felt her knees weaken. She lowered herself slowly onto the edge of a chair, clasping her trembling hands in her lap. She didn't want to cry, not in front of them, not again. But the tears gathered anyway, silent and hot. For a moment she simply stared at her hands, trying to ground herself. She remembered their wedding day, Lucas promising her loyalty, holding her hands the same way she was holding her own now. He looked at her that day like she was the center of his world. Tonight, she was invisible. Nia's voice drifted across the room, smooth and unhurried. "You didn't tell me she'd be this emotional," she said, taking a sip of her drink. Lucas chuckled lightly. "She always gets dramatic when she feels ignored." Emma lifted her head sharply. Dramatic? Ignored? She wasn't causing chaos. She wasn't shouting. She wasn't competing. She was simply asking her husband why he had replaced her. Emma stood again, her legs unsteady but her voice firming slightly. "Lucas, can we please just talk? Even for 1 minute, I deserve that much." Nia sighed softly, turning her attention toward the night skyline instead. It was a subtle signal. She didn't need to speak. Her silence was enough to remind Lucas of who mattered in the room. Lucas put his glass down, annoyed. "Emma, go upstairs." "No," she whispered, trying to hold herself together. "Not until we talk." He looked at her with cold disbelief. "You think now is the time? When I have company?" Company. That's what Nia was. And Emma? A mistake interrupting his evening. Emma took a step forward, her voice cracking. "Lucas, how can you bring her into our home, into our space, without even—" "It's my home," Lucas snapped sharply. "Everything here exists because of me. You just live in it." Emma froze, her breath catching. Nia shifted slightly, giving Lucas a slow, approving smile. Emma tried again, but her voice was fading. "I'm your wife." Lucas didn't flinch. "So?" The word hit like a slap. Emma felt the world tilt. For a moment she thought she might collapse. But she stayed standing. Barely. Her chest heaved as she forced out the words. "Do I really mean that little to you now?" Lucas rubbed the bridge of his nose, exhausted. "Emma, stop asking emotional questions. They don't help anyone. Things change." "People don't change this much," she whispered. "They do when they finally find someone who understands them," Lucas replied, glancing at Nia. Emma's breath hitched painfully. Nia didn't gloat. She simply stood there with quiet confidence, like she was already used to being chosen. Lucas continued, his voice steady and disturbingly calm. "Nia gets me. She doesn't cling. She doesn't question every decision I make. She doesn't make a big deal out of small things." Emma stared in disbelief. "Small things?" she whispered. "You pushed me." He shrugged. "You fell." Nia exhaled softly, a sound that wasn't quite a laugh, but close enough to sting. Emma felt tears burn again, but she blinked them away. She didn't want to break anymore. She didn't want to give them the satisfaction. "Lucas, please," she whispered one last time. "Look at me, please." He turned. But the look he gave her wasn't love, or regret, or even irritation. It was emptiness. A look that said her chapter in his life had already closed. Even if she was still standing there begging for a reason to stay. Silence filled the penthouse. Thick, painful, suffocating. Lucas and Nia stood together, a pair united in confidence and carelessness. Emma stood alone, trembling, but something inside her began to shift. Not anger, not spite, not revenge, just clarity. The kind that comes when a person finally sees the truth of a situation without the fog of love or hope. Emma reached for the back of a chair to steady herself. Her voice, when it came, was soft, yet steady in a way that surprised even her. "Lucas," she said quietly, "I can't force you to respect me, but I won't stay where I am treated like nothing. Lucas's jaw tightened, annoyed rather than affected. Emma, don't start acting dramatic again. She shook her head gently. No, this isn't drama. This is me accepting reality. Nia watched her with measured curiosity, as if she already knew Emma would break, but didn't expect Emma to do it with dignity. Emma looked at the penthouse, the marble floors she once polished herself, the furniture she picked, the kitchen she cooked in, the life she built with trembling hope. Then she looked at Lucas, the man she once adored, the man who used to hold her like she mattered, the man who now stood beside another woman and didn't flinch when Emma's heart fell apart in front of him. Lucas, she whispered, you've already left me. I'm just finally catching up. He stiffened slightly but remained silent. Emma forced a small, calm breath. I won't fight for someone who doesn't want me, and I won't cry in front of you anymore. Nia blinked, surprised but not offended. For the first time, she looked at Emma with something close to respect. Emma walked past both of them slowly, not running, not stumbling, just moving with a grace she didn't know she had. She didn't shout. She didn't throw anything. She didn't look back. Her dignity was all she had left, and she chose to carry it with her. Lucas finally spoke, his voice low. Where are you going? Emma stopped at the elevator, pressing the button with steady fingers. Away from where I am unwanted, she answered softly. The doors opened. She stepped inside. Lucas didn't follow. Nia didn't speak. The world didn't collapse, but something important ended, and something even more important began. As the elevator descended, Emma wiped the last tear from her cheek, not because the pain was gone, but because she refused to let it define her anymore. For the first time in a long time, she chose herself. If you enjoyed this emotional story, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Your support helps us bring more dramatic, heart-touching stories to you every single day. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were in Emma's shoes? Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.